Hey, I'm Nick from Kinetic, and thanks for checking out our new series From the Floor. One of our goals at Kinetic is improving the level of education in the industry. So we wanted to put out this series to highlight different brokers and give some quick hitting tips on best practices, common mistakes, or just general brokerage advice. Today we're talking to Jake from Exo Freight. Jake, thanks for being on. Want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. My name is Jake McLeod. I'm the COO here at Exo Freight. Been in the industry roughly, going on 16 years here. Started out on the floor as a cradle to grave broker, so I've seen all sides of the business, good and bad, and now here trying to spread some friendly advice and help some people avoid some missteps.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on. And today we want to talk about toxic business. And, that sounds dramatic, but the reality is that some customers just aren't going to be a good fit for your company. And that's a generic way of phrasing it. So let me start by asking you, what do you mean by toxic business?
Yeah, it's that's definitely like a word that's going to perk people up, like toxic. Oh my gosh, right? And the idea is you don't let it get to the point where something is truly toxic, right? And I think people need to identify customer fit, maybe trying to understand like what's good business for you or not good business for you, or maybe there's personalities on the floor and things like that. But I guess like in the the truest form of business just being truly toxic, right? Think about operating business that hurts your culture. It not only is it maybe not profitable, maybe it's just a drain. And maybe it starts to affect other customer client relationships, carrier relationships, employee relationships. Like think about those types of accounts. It's just like, whatever you've done to that point to let this business get so bad. I'm hoping that, most people have tried different things to not let it get to that point, but truly toxic business is business of that is a poison in the company.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone's experienced it. And sometimes you don't recognize that it's happening until it's too late. You've already got a problem on your hands. So like, how do you identify when it's happening? What are there things to watch out for so you know that this is toxic business that's going to be a detriment to our company?
Yeah, and like I kind of was just mentioning, if you're a good business person, right, whether that's an account manager, an account executive, leadership, you try and do everything you can to make a customer relationship work, right? I mean, it's very hard to make calls to accounts, to get them to trust you with business. Like, so you get this precious thing, like someone's trusting me to move freight. I have a new account, I have a customer. That you tend to ignore maybe some of the bad signs. It's like a relationship sometimes, right? Like you're like, it's mostly good, right? So sometimes you're doing everything you can to make a relationship work, and so it's hard to see, those identifiers, right? What truly identifies it. I don't know if there's like a real easy answer, because I don't think it's a one size fits all for everybody. It's going to be unique to every single business, but you got to look at it. Is it creating what I like to call, a win for all, right? So are the carriers winning? Is the customer winning? Is your business winning? If all three of those are checking boxes, right, you probably have a really good account. But if it's a customer that's hard on the carriers for whatever reason, it's causing you to lose your carrier base or to get a bad reputation, well, that's a problem. If the customer is always angry with you, it's not making their business more successful, it's not a win for them, well, that's a big sign. And if internally, again, it's causing a lot of conflict, people are not being successful operating this, it's a drain, it's starting to affect other accounts, then obviously it's not a win for you and your business. Like those are really the things you have to look for, and they can probably present themselves in different ways, but that's what you really need to always focus on, is making sure it's good for everybody in this ecosystem.
Yeah, and so like I know I personally have fallen into this trap by like not valuing my time enough sometimes. I've had customers that like we serviced the heck out of, who were making money, but when I look at the amount of time that I put into something, it wasn't necessarily worth what I was getting out of the customer relationship, just because it was so disproportionate. Like, do you find that something that you should look out for too? Like, how much time is it actually taking for the individual account manager and the people involved?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you want to look at all aspects of the business, right? And sometimes accounts are built for probably different types of service providers. Like in my role now, we're all about trying to find the most optimal way of doing business, right? Whether that's the automations, providing software for our customers, things like that. So we're always looking for ways to make that not be a problem. But there are customers that just, there may be a lot of things involved, right? And it's, we talked about the shipper of choice is a popular way to talk about, like, carriers really determining if there's really good locations they want to pick up from or deliver to. Same kind of principle does apply, right? Like, how much effort is involved into moving a load for somebody? Does that customer value that relationship, right? It may be a time sink, but maybe they value the relationship a lot and they want to work with you as a partner to make things better. They recognize that it can be difficult to work with them for whatever reason. Could be system limitations, whatever it is, but hey, we're partners. Let's move through this. If that's not the case, it's not partners, they're blasting to 100, 200 people. You happen to get a load for whatever reason, and it's just then a slog to operate this freight and make it move and to do everything you need to do to get paid. That's probably when you need to take a little bit closer look, right?
Yeah. And you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier when you said that, like, sometimes the account manager or the customer rep gets so wrapped up in it that they almost can't identify when it's happening. Whose responsibility is it to identify when it's happening? Is it that individual, or does management kind of have to step in and, like, tell them, hey, this is not a good relationship right now. You're being taken advantage of, or it's just not working in some way?
Yeah, that's near and dear to my heart is sort of this idea of I feel like statements versus this is reality statement, right?
Yeah.
And you get that a lot, right? Like, someone could ask you, they go, is this a good account? Oh, they're a great account. We do all this business, we do that,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, we're making money, we're doing this. And then you look at, like, the facts, right? We log into our BI tool, we pull up metrics and we see what reality is, and it could tell a very different tale. And those are the conversations you can have around an account, an individual customer, a individual location, whatever it is. You can use some hard facts and just say, hey, listen, I know you're telling me one thing and you feel this way because you're probably, living this, you're really, really close to this freight and
Mm-hmm.
you feel this way, but, like, here's reality. Reality is, like, we actually don't make money on this, or we spend a lot of time trying to cover this, or, carriers are falling off this load a lot. Like, there's something going on here that's deeper. So, who's in charge of identifying that? The people that live it every day, it's going to be harder for them. But if you have good touch points with leadership, you're using data to make good decisions in your business, it's a little easier to identify. And again, I would always encourage people to course correct, right? Like, hey, maybe there are reasons these things are happening. Like, you feel it's good, data says it's not. Why is there this disconnect? Let's try and solve for that before we jump to conclusions.
Yeah. And, like, kind of spinning off of trying to solve for that, I guess the question is, what do you do about it? Like, do you immediately distance yourself from the business, or is there kind of a process for, like, trying to fix the relationship and trying to actually make it work?
That comes down to what makes maybe business not a good fit versus toxic versus
Mm-hmm.
maybe just like a mismatch, right? A misalignment or a communication type problem, right? So customers that value you as a provider, they're your partner, right? I always view every customer as a partnership. We're in this together. It's us versus the world, especially these last 2 years. If we're not in this together and we're, on a united front, it's never going to work. So if you have a good relationship with somebody that's willing to work through those things, have really honest conversations about the realities of operating their freight, or rates, or the market, or maybe problems at the shipping locations, receiving, whatever it is. If you can have those honest conversations, and there's someone at the other end of that phone call or the other side of that board meeting table that is, yeah, I recognize that. I recognize these problems. Yeah, these are issues we need to fix. Great. That's how you fix it. If on the other side of that table is an individual saying, there's 10,000 more of you out there, I don't care, I'll find somebody else. Like, this is what it is. This is how we operate, take it or leave it. It may not be the best customer for you. And that's something that you just need to make a business decision on if you want to play in that arena or not. For us, in my experience and the way I've always operated was as a partnership. And it has to be a win for everybody. And even people who are tough and have said those words to me, though,
Yeah.
sometimes you can convert and say, listen, that's great. You're right. There are a lot of providers out there, but you do work with me for a reason. You probably enjoy the services I provide. We've enjoyed working with you, except for these issues. This is something that can be solved, and we can continue, this relationship moving forward. Is there a path forward? Yes or no, right? And then that's when sometimes tough decisions are made about path forward, or is this the end of our relationship?
So tell me more about those tough decisions. How do you fire a customer? Is it just cut and dry, hey, I'm out? Or is there an actual process that you go through for that?
Yeah, it's going to be dependent, right? That's not a cop-out answer, but I don't want to have a bad reputation in the industry, right? And any company I've been in, and personally, I think that if you've talked to people that I've worked with over the years, I don't think I've left a bad taste in anyone's mouth ever. So I think you have to be mature and recognize together, hey, this maybe just isn't a fit right now. You're not happy. We're not happy. Why? We've tried and tried. We keep trying to jam this square peg into the round hole. Clearly not a fit. We like each other, but this just isn't going to work out for whatever reason. We're just not built to handle this, or you're not built to handle it, whatever it is. And you sort of decide, what does that wind down look like? We don't want to leave any customer in a bad position. I'm never going to dump a bunch of freight on somebody and say, well, I'm so vindictive that I'm going to leave you scrambling to cover, 10 loads on a Friday, the last week of a quarter, right? I would never do that to anybody, and I would expect, the same in return. But there's always really good ways to have a really unfortunate conversation with a customer and have a breakup that leaves both of you probably willing to open the door again in the future if it made sense.
No, I think that's great advice. The last thing I'm going to ask you is kind of circling back to like both evaluating the process with the customer and like the individual like rep in your organization. Do you have regular touch points with them to kind of evaluate how things are going, or does it just kind of pop up when you notice a problem?
No, I mean, you're going to have regular touch points with your people on the floor, right? Again, I think it's I go back to what it feels like, what you hear when, the casual, of course, the joke, the meme out there, right? The sales manager meme of like, hey, what's cooking? Like you're going to get a very different response from having like a real thoughtful, sit down. Here's data, here's our BI tool. Hey, Nick, let's kind of discuss what's going on with these accounts here and there. Like, hey, you're doing a great job. You're really growing these guys month after month. That's awesome. Oh, I saw we launched a new location for them. Cool. That's wonderful. Wait a minute, we lost some business from this. What's happening there, right? And starting to dig in and understanding, maybe, Nick on the floor doesn't recognize that somebody moved roles, and now that new person that stepped in had brought their own relationships, and now there's conflict, and there's a myriad of things that can happen. But if you're not talking about it regularly and really looking at data and having really intelligent conversations with your people on the floor who are representing your brand to the world, that's a big miss, right? If you're waiting to the point that something's boiling over, or you just happen to notice like, hey, wait a minute, I just lost 10% of my revenue with a customer, it's too late. I'm a big fan of lead measures versus lag measures. And really getting in front of something that you can course correct versus looking in the mirror going, wow, that was a hell of a car wreck. Glad it wasn't me, or move along, right? I mean, wouldn't you rather avoid the car accident to begin with? So you got to have regular touch points with your people on the floor, your customers, your account executives, your leadership team. Communication is key in this world. Everyone will always tell you that, but it's true. With customers, with your floor, your people, and with your carrier base.
No, that's perfect. I talk to a lot of people who kind of fall into the trap of not recognizing that there's a problem until there's a problem. And like I really like the proactive approach to it. My last question is, since this series and Connect's all about education, I want to wrap up with this. What's something new you've learned recently?
Yeah, I'll give you a weird answer because it's not necessarily new, but I did learn Michigan frost laws went into effect last week. So if you are moving heavy loads throughout the state of Michigan right now, you will find that you are in a bit of a pickle because there are frost laws in effect. Our roads here in the state of Michigan get basically, because of the way the ground freezes and thaws, heavy loads will destroy our roads. And although our roads come pre-destroyed, I feel like we want to do our best to preserve what little we have left of infrastructure. So anyone trying to move, especially the open deck world, loads through Michigan, be aware there are additional fees and charges and routing that needs to happen to do so. So there's something I learned that's also a helpful tip for your audience.
No, I love it. That was all great advice. I appreciate you taking the time to talk today. We're intentionally keeping these short so that they're quick and digestible, but the industry is really nuanced. They're complicated subjects, and there's always more to learn. Jake, if someone wants to reach out to you, how do they do it?
You can find me on LinkedIn, search Jake McLeod. I come right up. You can also always reach me, Jake at exofreight.com. I respond to everybody. Happy to have anyone also come to our website, exofreight.com. We are hiring for a number of roles. So anyone out there is looking to make a change or come on board the team here with me and the team, I would be happy to chat with you.
Perfect. Jake, thanks for being on, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from you and the group at ExoFreight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.